Have you ever spotted something in a theme park and thought, there's gotta be a story behind that? Well, you're in the right place. We're Amanda, Kevin, and Kim, the team behind Where in the Park, and we've spent years exploring the parks, creating seek and find games that uncover the details that most people miss. And now we're diving into the history, stories, and secrets behind those magical details. So grab your curiosity and maybe even a churro, and let's explore the parks together.
Welcome to the Where in the Park podcast. This is episode 1, where we will be discussing where in the Disney park, because we're going to be discussing our logo. If you don't know who we are Where in the Park. We make games that you play at theme parks. So the idea is that we make decks of cards. Every card has an image. The image is hidden somewhere in the park. The question is, where in the park? It's fun to play at Disneyland, Knott's Berry Farm, Walt Disney World, Universal Studios. Name a park, we probably have a game for it. It's a great time. Look us up if you haven't. Otherwise, just keep on listening here. So, on today's episode, we have the entire crew of Where in the Park. We have Amanda.
Oh,
We have Kim.
hello.
And I am Kevin. And we are here to discuss, like I said, our company logo. It is just the words where, in the, and park. But those three sections of our name, if you've seen our logo, are actually found at the Disneyland Resort. Question, obviously, where in the park can those be found? We'll be discussing it. It's not in any of our game packs, so there are no spoilers in this episode. Don't worry about that. You're just going to have fun as we explain the details of Disney parks. And that's what this podcast is all about. So if you're ready, let's get started.
All right. So the first part of the Where in the Park logo is the where. And if you are a Disney aficionado, or maybe you're not, you might have discovered the Snow White's wishing well, which is located just to the right of Sleeping Beauty Castle at Disneyland. It's kind of off the beaten path a little bit. It's a little quieter nook of the park. But as the story goes, and I say that because there's a lot of different information out there as to what the story is behind this wishing well. But from what we've gathered, the story goes that Walt Disney had found this collection of little sculptures of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, right? And so Walt had asked Disney legend John Hinch to find a home for Snow White. And this is in 1960. And so John Hinch was finding some inspiration in a fountain in Brie, which is a small town in northern France. And this old world charm really inspired him, especially as the sun was shining and dancing off the water in this town. And so he was getting some ideas for what this grotto and well could look like. So the figurines of Snow White's grotto was sculpted by Leonida Parma, and is crafted from pure Carrara marble. Sorry if I mispronounce anything in here, but it is crafted from pure Carrara marble. But here's the catch: all of them, Snow White and all seven dwarfs, were sculpted the same height. So obviously, we know that Snow White is taller than the seven dwarfs. So this posed to be a bit of a problem, but John Hinch, being the legendary Imagineer that he was, solved the problem using forced perspective. So he placed Snow White on top of the waterfall, on top of the hill, and placed the seven dwarves closer to the guest's eye level. So it made the illusion of Snow White appearing taller than she actually is, and made the scene feel a little bit more natural. He also had different sculptures added of woodland creatures such as squirrels. There was a deer that's next to Snow White. There's some frogs and there's fish in the water. And so you have different elements at play within the water feature in the grotto. So today, the marble originals have been carefully preserved, but due to time, they began to kind of have some discoloration because they're in the sun all day, every day. And so new molds were made to have a replica made out of fiberglass. So what you see at the grotto today is actually fiberglass, and it's going to last a lot longer than the marble statues that were originally there. As for the wishing well itself, in 1983, with the remodeling of Fantasyland, they wanted to plus this wishing well a little bit. And so Disney historian Les Perkins had reached out to Adriana Caselotti, the original voice of Snow White, and said, hey, I'm paraphrasing obviously, but let's have some elements of Snow White within Snow White's grotto. And so Adriana recorded the song I'm Wishing to be played within the well itself. So if you go over to the well, you'll hear echoings of this song sung by the original voice of Snow White, which is really, really cool. So these acoustics that you hear within the well, it adds that charming touch, and it reminds you of like, hey, she's wishing for something, and it encourages you to do the same. So you can throw coins into the well, and this was actually a brilliant idea from Walt to have this well included, because then it would deter people from throwing coins into the moat of the castle. So now we have this vessel to collect coins in, and the coins and money that are thrown into the well are actually going to children's charities around the world. So the inscription that is on all of the sides of the well, it says, "Your wishes will help children everywhere." And it is this where in everywhere that we get our logo from, the where in the park. So that is a fantastic little nod to Disney, to Walt, and to the history of where in the park. As for the other details around the well, we have other creatures. We have owls, we have butterflies, and we have bunny rabbits. So it adds to that fantastical, whimsical element that is the surrounding area. So the iconic grotto and the well are so beloved that they had it recreated in Tokyo Disneyland in 1983. And that one is located to the left of Cinderella Castle over there. If you're looking at the castle, it's nestled off to the left. And the replica carries much of that same charm. It has the same figures, again, carefully arranged for that forced perspective. But there's some slight differences to match Tokyo's aesthetics. And the inscription that I just read is not visible on that particular well, which is interesting. A very similar grotto is also in Hong Kong Disneyland that was placed in September of 2005. And that is to the left of the Castle of Magical Dreams over there. It does appear to have an inscription, but the photos that we were able to find online can't really make out what it says. It kind of looks like it reads the same. Your wishes will help children everywhere, but can't put our finger on it quite yet. So if you have any photos from this well, please send them in to us. You can DM us at We're in the Park, or you can join our absolutely free Facebook group and share your photos in there. So the key difference that I wanted to point out on this well in Hong Kong is that the roof is red as opposed to the blue roof line that we see in Tokyo and in California. And this really plays well because the Hong Kong castle has a lot of red hues and the surrounding walls have a lot of red hues. So if it was blue, it would really stand out. So I really like how they wove in the red element to make it appear more natural into the space. So that is the lowdown of the Snow White's wishing well and grotto around the Disney parks.
I do want to point out that the other some of the other castle parks do have a Snow White's wishing well, but they are missing the grotto, and their wells look very different than the three that Amanda mentioned. Like over at the Magic Kingdom, you can find Snow White's wishing well, but it looks completely different than the ones in the other parks. And even in Paris, there is one, but again, not the same. We should also point out that Walt Disney himself dedicated that wishing well and grotto back in April of 1961. Some sources say that it opened with the park, but it did not. Like Amanda said, it was the 1960s when they were kind of deciding on those sculptures. And I'm not sure if you mentioned like the myth. Hopefully, again, we don't know the full story. She said there are multiple stories. That it's possible that it was that these were shipped without anyone expecting them, as far as these sculptures that are in the grotto. Um, I believe it's been debunked. Again, we have the name of the sculptor. The original story was it was a mystery like delivery that they didn't plan on receiving. Then Walt decided to put it in the park. But we believe that it was decided to go there from the beginning, but we don't really know the whole story. So if you do, like Amanda said, reach out to us.
Mark your calendars, explorers. We are back at the Disneyana Fan Club Expo on June 1st at the Irvine Marriott in Irvine, California, from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. We have been at this event multiple times throughout the years, and it's always packed with Disney magic, celebrities, giveaways, collectibles, and more. And of course, we're in the park. So come say hi, grab a game pack, and join in on the fun. Details are in our events page. The link is in the show notes below, and we cannot wait to see you there. If you can't make it, no worries. Head on over to our website and check out our Seek and Find game packs and get ready to explore the parks in a whole new way. All right, let's get back to discovering more of those details.
So what is the second part of the We're in the Park logo?
The second part is which you would think there would be a lot of spaces around the park that would have this particular, these words together, and there is not, believe it or not. We found in the Sword and the Stone, these sculptures are in pretty much most of the parks. It's based on the 1938 T.H. White novel, The Sword and the Stone, and Walt Disney produced the full-length animated musical film, which was released in theaters on December the 12th in 1963. And we were blessed to have the songs from the Sherman Brothers be in that film. And if you haven't ever watched that film, please go back and watch it. It's really awesome, and it still tugs at heartstrings of mine. The Sword and the Stone statue is a bronze anvil that's embedded in a big, great boulder. And the King Arthur's sword, the Excalibur, is sticking out of the top of the statue. The plaque on the stone reads, "The Sword and the Stone. Whoso pulleth out the sword of this stone and anvil is rightwise ruler born of England." There is actually videos online, and we'll post some links in our show notes, where you can actually see Merlin's ceremony with his court, select special people from the audience that is watching the coronation, and be able to try and pull the sword from the stone. And there's several that are available online that are quite humorous to see. And usually it's a child who's able to pull the sword. The Sword and the Stone statues are located in Fantasylands at Disneyland in 1983. It's also at the Magic Kingdom in 1984, in Disneyland Paris in 1992, and in Shanghai Disney in 2016. There was a Sword in the Stone in Hong Kong, but it was removed in 2023 to make room to install the amazing Dreammaker statue, which we will post some photos, links to the photos on our show notes as well. And it is of Walt and Mickey sitting on a park bench overlooking the carousel, and it's so magical. So be sure that you check out our show notes for links.
And I love this statue so much. So even though, it's a shame the sword and the stone are removed from that park, I approve of the enhancement to the statues.
I do want to point out just a few things about as far as the details from our logo. The in and the side by side like that are available on the Disneyland and the Magic Kingdom versions of the plaque. But over in Shanghai and the one that was in Hong Kong, it had the same font or the typeface, but it was stacked top to bottom instead of left to right.
Oh.
And over in Paris, they have the sword and the stone, but the plaque actually just reads Excalibur. Then underneath it in French, it says, he who succeeds in removing the sword embedded in the stone will be proclaimed king. So it doesn't actually say sword in the stone anywhere on that plaque. So you wouldn't find our logo in that park, but you can find it at both Disney World and at Disneyland, which is convenient because we have game packs for both of those parks.
That I did not know about it being stacked. The stack on. I wonder why they did it like that.
You know, what's funny because like I was trying to research why this logo looks the way it does in the parks, and I couldn't figure out why. Like, if anyone has our logo in front of them, if you go to our website, you notice the word "in" is all caps, and then the word "the" has just a lowercase h. So it's all caps "in," capital T, lowercase h, capital E, and it's not the way that it is written on the movie title. Like if you watch the movie itself, it doesn't look like this font. It doesn't have it stacked that way either, I don't think. So it's just kind of an interesting, I don't know who decided on that plaque to make it look like this. If you have that information, we would love to learn it. But yeah, so I don't know if it just looked better as they were designing the plaque for the Asian parks, because I know that has more text on there because of it has a in Japanese or in Mandarin, I'm sure, similar text. But yeah, I don't know. More questions than answers, but that's part of the fun of what we do here.
Let's see, then you can find the details. You can see that when you go there, you can actually pinpoint it on the actual plaque itself.
Exactly.
That's really cool.
Okay, Kevin, your turn. What's about park?
All right. So the last word in our logo is the word park, like she said. So we looked around a few spots trying to find this word. It was actually in at least two spots. One of them was in Toon Park, which we actually had on an original game pack, but it was removed when Toontown was closed. But our first pack of games that we actually only had Disneyland and California Adventure. And we felt like California Adventure needed to be represented in our logo. So over there is a little plaque. You can find a few of them along the waterways over there at currently Paradise Bay. It used to be the Paradise Pier Lagoon. Some people still refer to it as the lagoon at Paradise Bay. So it's another one of those, depends on who you talk to situations. But the plaque just says Paradise on top and Park on the bottom. And the park looks with the same typeface that we have here in our logo. And that whole area, if you guys know your California Adventure history, I don't know that you do, but it was redone for World of Color. So that big fountain, nighttime spectacular over at California Adventure, where you have fountains kind of like the Bellagio fountains were famous before this was put in. But over there, it was just white fountain lights lighting up, looking beautiful. Over here, it was full color. So you had all kinds of colors in the fountains, and you had spray screens like in Fantasmic with scenes on it. You had fire effects. The name comes from it was a show that was on NBC back in the day called Walt Disney's Wonderful World of Color. And the reason why it had that funny name to us today is because back when that premiered, color TVs were brand new. So it was called World of Color to let you know, hey, if you tune into this show with your brand new color TV, this show will be in color. And it was kind of the same point that they were making with World of Color, where it was a fountain show where it's not like other fountain shows that were popping up around the planet at that time. This one was in full color. It wasn't just white lights going through your water. So that was the whole idea behind that show. It's a beautiful show. If you guys haven't seen it, we highly recommend it. Go get yourself a virtual queue or a dessert party or a meal to get a standing area or a seat, depending on which item you get. But that whole area, when the park first opened, it was designed to be a viewing area of their big waterfront. So if you know where Pixar Pier is today, originally it was Paradise Pier. That's where you can stand on one side of this big body of water and you can see the roller coaster for it's the now the Incredicoaster and the big Ferris wheel. The Pixar Pal Around is what it's called today. So this viewing area is where they had the first nighttime show. California Adventure was the holiday of 2001, a show called Lumen Aria. I think that's how you're supposed to pronounce it. It had a capital L and a capital A. So it wasn't a Luminaria, it was a Lumen Aria. And it was a fun show, except for they had issues with their low level fireworks where it gave off too much smoke and would kind of go into the crowd sometimes, depending on the wind. So it took them about 9 years later before they, I guess 8.5 years later, they tried again in June of 2010 is when they opened World of Color and this new viewing area where they completely demolished the viewing area that they had there to create this tiered area that can hold more people. So it currently holds between 4,500 people, and everyone can go there and watch this show over in the area that's actually called Paradise Park. You'll find it over in the Paradise Gardens Park area of the California Adventure. I guess it's technically the land name, the section name, depending on where you look it up. That land didn't open until 2018, though. So when World of Color opened, it was still just Paradise Pier over there with Paradise Park. But now it's Paradise Gardens Park with Paradise Park after Pixar Pier opened, like I said, in 2018. So that's the story behind that plaque and that part of our logo.
That's awesome. That's really cool. And it's cool to see the before and afters of what it used to look like and what they transformed it to be today. And we've sat in that crowd quite a few times, and I didn't realize there was 4,000 people standing around with us. That's a lot of people.
Yeah, they had some fun special effects in there too over the years I didn't bring up right now. I guess it doesn't really relate to our logo itself, but they have it where for one of the holiday shows they added some effects where it puts up, I guess, bubble snowflakes. I guess is the only way to describe it. I guess you have to see it to really understand it. Where they have it where it pumps out, it looks like 3D printed snowflakes that float into the air from this area, from the viewing area there. They have lights that are all set up that glow with the show. You remember those, the Mickey ears that would glow depending on what was happening in the show. They have lights out there that have different colors as well. So it's a very colorful, very fun show.
And if you have a magic band, those will also glow with the show if you are in that area. It will pulse and give off some different colors.
If you keep them charged.
Right.
Well, I know that the bubble, you mentioned the snowflake bubbles. I know throughout the seasons they've changed them up. So sometimes they have heart-shaped bubbles that float. So it's just there. It gives you the you want to see it over and over and over again, right? And so we've talked in other shows, in other podcasts about the rewritability factor, and this is definitely something like even if it's the same like style of show of World of Color, you're still going to see something new, whether that be the different movies or characters that they show within the show themselves, or elements like this, where there's different lighting, there's different bubble elements, there's different music. It all makes up the experience. So definitely check it out next time you're at Disney California Adventure.
So we're recording this. The new version of World of Color Happiness has not premiered yet. So we'll find out what exciting new updates we're getting into.
Yes, we will definitely be there to check it out. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming along our journey as we took a closer look into our Where in the Park logo and discussed some of the history, the stories, the secrets behind the wishing well, the sword in the stone, and Paradise Park at the Disneyland Resort.
Yeah, and join us next time where we'll be deep diving into fun details at other parks around the world, including Universal Studios parks. I believe that's our next stop. So you don't know what we're going to say or what's going to come up next, but neither do we. So that works out.
each episode, we are focusing on a different theme park and different details within those theme parks, diving into the history and whatever we can find about that specific detail. So stay tuned next week as we dive into Universal Studios Hollywood. Until then, we'll see you somewhere in the park.